It's time to make a tier list on all the standout characters of Final Fantasy IV 3D. Spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning. If you have not played Final Fantasy IV or Final Fantasy IV 3D, do not watch any further if you do not want to get spoiled. This is your final warning. I will be talking about what happens throughout the game, and I hope you enjoy. I just completed my first playthrough in this game. Some of these characters I absolutely adore, and some I just can't stand. I have a tumultuous relationship with this game for one simple reason. It was my first ever JRPG, and I decided to play the 3D remake version of it. It is not exactly what I would consider beginner friendly, so I would start with probably Final Fantasy VII Original, or even the pixeled remaster version of 4 for console. If you do choose to play the 3D version of the game, take your time, really plan out your moves, and just remember, we all struggled through it together. You are not the only one. You have support from me. I wish there was a death tracker in-game. It was impressive how often I died. Without further ado, let's get right into this tier list. These are all the standout characters in my heart that I needed to include. They're the ones that you could actually latch onto and appreciate. We are going to start out with the main protagonist, Cecil Harvey. He went through a very inspiring redemption arc throughout this game, and it was extremely motivational. You can really change your life for the better, even if you're not in the best circumstances. He figured he had a moral obligation to the world to not obey orders from the king. Started his journey as a Dark Knight and evolved into an amazing paladin. For that, I am going to solidly put him at the top of S tier. This is his game, and he really shows why he is the main character. Also, in the 3D remake version, he is voiced by the same voice actor as Sasuke from Naruto, and that is my favorite anime. So, solidly an S tier. Next up, we have Kain Highwind, an amazingly flawed individual, but he is under the thumb of Golbez. He does have moral quandaries as well. A lot of the times he is just about backstabbing you, so you hate him in the moment. Later on, you realize that he actually wasn't that bad of a guy. He was under mind control, so there was very little that he could actually do. He is an extremely strong character, and that jump ability that he has is so overpowered in the 3D remake. Last we did hear of him at the end of the game, he was at Mount Ordeal, so we're hoping that he becomes a paladin as well, just like Cecil. I'm gonna have to put him clearly in A tier. I can't put him in S tier because he did stab my back a couple times. Rydia, this lovely mage, is a summoner and black magic user. Very useful in battle. I actually fancy her as the second best character in the entire game, right behind Cecil. I really adore Rydia in this game. Very cool character. Next up, we will have Tella. He is another extremely strong mage. He finally remembers how to use Meteor, which is an extremely strong black magic. He almost saves the day against Golbez, but not quite. His heart was in the right place. One of the more interesting characters, yes, but the personality traits and the depth of the character, not my favorite, so I will put him solidly in B. Next up, we have Edward. He was kind of a little crybaby. I'm not lying. He is one of the lowest characters on my totem pole. I can't put him at the bottom because I'm saving the bottom for somebody special. We will put him in C. Just know if this was a different tier list, you'd be an F. Edward, not a fan. Rosa, on the other hand, a powerful white mage, doesn't have the most health, so you are always healing her. Very strong character, very emotional character. Ends up as the Queen of Baron by Cecil's side. I have to put her also in S tier. Really loved this character, right behind Rydia. I really like Rydia. Solidly in S tier. The bane of my existence, Yang. I can't say he is my favorite character. I don't have much to say about him. Right next to Edward. I know a lot of people won't like that, but he's going in C for me. This is my personal list. All right, we've got Palom. I love these twins. They saved the day with how strong they are. Very impressive. I'm going to put them both in A tier, right behind Kane. I think Kane stands strong enough to be in the top of A tier. Next up, we have Sid. This absolute goofball is always faking his death for some reason. I'm not sure why. Because he keeps giving me a heart attack, I'm going to put him in the top of B, right above Tella. I think he's an interesting guy. He seems like a bit of a goofball, loose cannon kind of deal. I feel like that's the perfect spot for him. We have Edge. This dude is really cool. He is a ninja, stands on his own. He is a prince with a purpose. So he is royalty. He does not need to fight back, but he does because of his morals. I love Edge. I think he was very, very strong. I'm going to put him above the twins. That kills me. Next up, we have Fusoya, who is a Lunarian. This robe-wearing old man was very nice. He was introduced quite late on into the story. By that point, I was fed up with the game, so I don't have the strongest opinions about him, but he sacrificed himself towards the end for the greater good, but it didn't end up mattering in the end because he failed and we prevailed. So I'm going to put him in B. Next up, we have Golbez, the antagonist of the story. To find out, it is actually Cecil's brother the entire time. His name is Theodore. We unveil his motivation. We find out what happened, that he's under the control of Zemus, and after we break that mind control, he sacrifices himself for the greater good of humanity. I feel like he had a decent redemption. He was a very strong character, really made you feel like you needed to gather the crystals before him. I feel like I would be doing a disservice to the game by putting him any lower than S tier. Next up, we have Dark Elf. This boss battle had me scratching my head, wanting to pull out my hair. I added this specifically because I had the hardest time with this boss. Having no prior knowledge of these games, I was flying blind. I needed help. So there is a special place in my heart for you to be in the most bottom tier ever. I had nightmares about you. I kept dying and dying and dying. It was so frustrating. Next up, we have the Elemental Arc Fiends. This was another one that I added to the list specifically because I hated them. They sucked to fight. Barbaricia was probably the easiest one out of all of them, and even then, it was difficult. You fight them individually, and then towards the end of the story, you fight all four of them at the same time. You made me contemplate everything about my life. It was absurdly frustrating. I'm going to put you solidly in D tier, but above the Dark Elf. Zemus. I loved this boss. It was very interesting. Very timely. I was extremely overpowered, so it was easy. So turns out in this game, if you're not overpowered, you're underpowered. You know what I mean? This bad boy was in charge the whole time. Golbez was a puppet figure the whole time. And for that twist of events, I'm going to put him solidly in A tier. I thought he was valid. I thought he was really cool. And that does it for this list. A tier is pretty heavy in comparison to some of these other tiers, but we spread out some of the love towards the bottom. We have our absolutely dreadful, terrible boss battles that we didn't love. We definitely didn't love them. We have some amazing characters. I would say S through B tier are really valid, really solid characters. C tier, they're still there, you know. They are there. Make sure you check out the live stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 6:30 until right around 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It would mean so much to me if you could subscribe and turn on those notifications. That's going to do it for this list. I appreciate you all so much for watching. Have a good one.